Hello and welcome to the YYC Soccer Podcast. My name is Jason Kmet. My co-host is Scott Strasser. Hey, Scott.
Hey, Jason. How's it going?
Good. So much soccer. Can't even keep track of all of it.
No, I hear you. I've been quite the couch potato for the last several weeks. Today watched Norway versus Brazil, in addition to some local soccer, and then caught a decent chunk of the England versus Mexico game, which I guess that has been the game of the tournament thus far, Jason. Just crazy drama.
There was some wacky stuff going on in that game. So anyway, I got to say, it's like sometimes people talk about, the World Cup and, all the stuff around it and everything, kind of like, with the Olympics and the IOC and the World Cup and FIFA. But, there's a reason these things are big. The drama and the entertainment value is just off the charts, right? Like this has just been so much fun to watch.
Yeah, and today was an instant classic, and you're absolutely right. It's games like this that stick in people's memories and what make the World Cup so special. And I hope we get to see at least a couple more games like this because, I was counting and there's really not that many games left. Once you get to the quarterfinals, it's 8 games. That's it.
Yeah, you're right. Soon enough. But anyway, even though there is a lot of international soccer to talk about, that's not what we're all about. We're about local soccer. So this is our weekend recap episode. We're going to talk about Cavalry FC versus Atletico Ottawa, Calgary Wild against Ottawa Rapid, and a bunch of Alberta Premier League matches. Some reviews of what happened on Friday and a preview of a couple big matches coming up here on Tuesday.
Yeah, and some big results in the APL this weekend in terms of the final standings implications. So excited to talk about those games, but why don't we kick things off with Cavalry FC's away trip to face Atletico Ottawa.
This is Kanija Elva, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
So Cavalry was playing Atletico Ottawa on Saturday afternoon, just immediately after Canada bowed out of the World Cup against Morocco. So I think it was a little bit of a downer when the Cavalry match started because I think everyone was a bit disappointed with the Canada loss. But man, if you're a Cavalry fan, they made you feel good pretty quick in this game.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how dominant they were in the first half. 3 goals in the opening 40 minutes to take a commanding lead into halftime, and then they never really they didn't add to that in the second half, so the game ended 3-0. But in terms of historic results against Atletico Ottawa, especially in Ottawa, this has got to be right up there. Hey, like this is a place that Cavalry has often struggled to pick up points in the past against a team that you and I have always referred to as their bogey team. But they got it done, and they got it done early.
Yeah, that first half, they just came out fast and furious. And the first goal was in the 9th minute, Sergio Camargo. And then a few minutes later, in the 17th minute, Goten Atigny. And then, but things were looking very much in hand even after those 2 goals. But then Kanija Elva got a third one in the 39th minute just before halftime. And it really felt like this game was done.
And at that point, it was no goals to speak of in the second half, but Cavalry did well to come away from this one with a clean sheet. Nathan Ingham playing against his former teammates. Yeah, I mean, Jason, this was a statement win, in my opinion, a result that puts Cavalry even further ahead of Ottawa, who are in 3rd place behind Cavalry. As dominant a performance as we've seen from them this year.
Yeah, they just look solid. Like, I don't know what else to really... It was a game that they played so well that I'm not even sure what to talk about in it because everything just seemed to work, right? And Nate Ingham didn't have a whole lot to do. The offense played great. Like I said, I don't think I've got a lot of additions beyond that.
Well, I do have one thing I'd like to bring up, which is it's interesting that they were so dominant offensively when they were missing their top scorer. Right? Like Tobias Warshevsky didn't even travel. I believe he picked up an ankle injury in training before this one. And I remember seeing that and thinking, who are the goals going to come from today? And they spread it out by committee. All 3 of these players, this wasn't their first goal of the season, but it's great to see someone other than Tobias Warshevsky chipping into the goals total. And, I thought it was great that Camargo scored a header, probably the shortest guy on the pitch.
Yeah, but, he was perfectly positioned. It worked out, really well. So we can talk about the standings in the CPL. Cavalry has 26 points on 11 matches. They're still in 2nd place. They're 9 points ahead of Ottawa and 5 points behind Forge. So the 2-horse race continues, really.
Yeah, 5 points behind Forge, but with a game in hand. But I did hear that Forge conceded their first goal at home this weekend. I don't fact check that, but it's something I heard on the One Soccer broadcast. And I didn't even realize that Forge hadn't conceded at Hamilton Stadium this far into the season. That's quite impressive by them. So Forge, setting the pace. Obviously going to be a two-horse race the rest of the way through for the CPL Shield, but Cavalry doing well to stay within spitting distance of their biggest rival.
This is kind of a weird point in the schedule for Cavalry. They hadn't played for so long, and then they had that postponed match, and now they played this one CPL match, and they don't play another CPL match now until July 17th. But there is a big match on Wednesday, and that's actually one we should really look at doing a bit of a preview right now, because we won't be recording again before then. And they're playing the Whitecaps.
Yeah, once again, Canadian Championship duel with the MLS side. Still, I actually just checked the MLS standings, Jason, and Vancouver Whitecaps are currently top of the Western Conference with 32 points from their first 14 games, tied on points with San Jose Earthquake, but with a game in hand, and I believe better goal differential. So by all means, won't be easy, right? Vancouver Whitecaps. I don't think they won't have Andre Cubas back. Like, he was playing with Paraguay at the World Cup, and I can't imagine he'll be back playing for the Whitecaps for this game. I am curious to see if Thomas Müller plays, which I think a lot of people are. He was doing punditry during the World Cup, and I don't know if he was keeping fit, so I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play. But by all means, this is going to be a tough battle for Cavalry, as it always is when they play MLS opposition.
It is going to be a bit weird. Like, for the Whitecaps, they haven't played since May 23rd. It's been like 6 weeks since they've last played a match.
Yeah, that's crazy, but we know that MLS hasn't been playing, right? So it makes sense that they've been off. I believe they have been training, though. I still see lots of training videos on the Whitecaps social media accounts that I follow. But I guess that is, that does bode well for Cavalry, that will this be the Whitecaps' first? They won't play before this. This is their next game as well.
No, this is their next game. And here's the thing too, that we probably most likely will be seeing a bunch of Whitecaps 2 players, or some of them at least. They have been playing. Whitecaps 2 played a week and a bit ago. They played on Saturday, June 27th. And interestingly enough, they play the night before the Cavalry match. That's going to be interesting from the point of view that they're going to bring up a bunch of players from Whitecaps 2. Like, Whitecaps 2 has a regular match the day before. So it's going to be some juggling around of the rosters, I would suppose.
Great opportunity to beat Whitecaps, right? Like, this is not going to be the best Whitecaps team we've seen. Another player I forgot to mention, Sebastian Berhalter, he's with the US, so he definitely won't be playing against Cavalry. So an opportunity this is a 2-legged affair, and the first leg is in Vancouver, but despite that, this is a great opportunity to get something from that game.
There will likely be at least one familiar face for Cavalry fans. Mikhail Gerasimenkov likely will play in this match. That match, Cavalry versus the Whitecaps, is going to be at Swangard Stadium, which is kind of a cool place to play. I was there for a Whitecaps match pre-MLS days, so that'll be interesting. The match is at 8:30 on Wednesday night. One more Cavalry note. I was very sure of something last episode, and I appears I have egg on my face, Scott. Cavalry did not sign a U21 player, and it turns out that they didn't have to.
Yeah, we forgot about Joseph Holiday, who's still a U21 player, which I wasn't aware of.
I somehow just thought he was not a U21 player anymore, but clearly my mistake. So, and by the way, on that topic, Michael Harms, mere hours after it was announced he was leaving Cavalry, it was announced that he's going to play at St. FX on the East Coast.
Yeah, good luck to him. Obviously, a lot of Calgarians have gone out to Antigonish over the years and had a lot of success with this program. So I'm sure he's going to be doing very well, and we'll have some interesting matchups with one of his former Cavalry teammates in Max Pikegrass.
Hi, this is Tegan Stewart. You're listening to YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, Scott, in kind of a quirk in the schedule, both Calgary teams traveled to Ottawa this weekend, and Cavalry played on Saturday afternoon and the Wild played on Sunday afternoon. So we've already talked about the Cavalry game. Let's talk about the Wild game. Not quite as positive of a result as Cavalry got, though.
No, but by the Wild standards, Jason, this is a slight improvement from what we have seen, because they did get on the score sheet a 3-1 win for Ottawa Rapid. I predicted a 5-0 win for Ottawa, so the Wild did, put forward a better performance than I expected. But this was pretty one-sided if you think about who had the ball and who had the chances. I think Ottawa produced almost 30 shots overall, 14 on target. Caitlin Talbot definitely had her best game in a Wild jersey by far, making, I think, 11 saves. But still some defensive frailties that the league leaders, Ottawa, were able to exploit.
I hate to say this, Scott, but I think a 3-1 scoreline flatters the Wild. I didn't watch the full first half, but I watched the full second half. And it was basically just Ottawa had total control of the match. And the reason that the Wild got their one goal was they had very few offensive opportunities. But what happened on that play was Wild had a corner and they called a foul on in the box on the corner. And it was a kind of a really ugly play, actually. The Ottawa player basically rammed Michaela Moore's head into the goalpost. And, Maggie Doherty-Howard made no mistake on her penalty kick, but really their opportunities were pretty few and far between. And the other thing I thought was interesting is watching the match that I'm not sure who is doing the commentary, but the person doing the commentary was making a point regularly about pointing out, she would say, this is something very basic that the Wild is doing wrong.
Yeah, like on fundamental stuff, or
yeah, like she would say, like there was one play in the second half where Grace Doherty made not a great pass, and it got intercepted and it didn't go anywhere. Yeah. And she said, if you watch that play, all three Wild players were making the exact same run in the exact same area. So there were three players there, but Doherty had no option. She had to pass there because that's where all the players were. And I did rewind it and watch it, and it's like totally right, and just other things about, talking about how, the positioning where Jorian Balcom was making her runs and how they were, if she would have went the one way instead of the other way, Maggie Doherty-Howard would have had a better opportunity to connect with her and stuff just things that are like, I'm not sure I'm doing a good job of, but she was being very specific and making a point of saying made a comment, I believe, that she said there are just some very fundamental things this team's not doing right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Wild are in last place for a reason, right? And they're still searching for their first win. We're more than a third of the way through the season. And, I'm worried, Jason, that they may go the whole season without a win. I don't know how they're going to get one at this point. They do, however, have yet to play Vancouver, which is the team, I believe, in second last, although they do have a healthy lead over the Wild. But every team they've played so far, I don't see them beating them.
I agree. And the Rise lost badly this weekend. They lost 5-1 to Montreal. But you got to remember too, even when you look at the numbers, they've only scored 6 goals, and actually only 4 of those are in open play. 2 of them have been penalty kicks. And think about this for a sec. The next lowest team on the goals for list has 13, more than double what the Wild have. And that's Vancouver, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is their next game. Hey, we're finally going to see the Wild take on Vancouver. That game is Saturday at McMahon in Calgary. Not sure what to say about it, Jason. I'm sure we'll talk about it more on Thursday. But
I think, what we can establish here is that there needs to be some new players added in. I don't think there's any denying that at this point, and they just need help, right? And they lost another player this week. Molly Race said she's stepping away from football. So now they have Sarah Kelty-Dilling, who can now become the backup keeper instead of number 3. But it does open up another roster spot for them. And they really need to think about bringing some players in. Sonia O'Neill started at center back. Sonia O'Neill is not a center back. How about that? It didn't go well today at all. And I think, we've already established that, Tilly James is struggled with that position. I don't know. They got to bring some players in, period. I always don't know how else, what else can be said. The transfer window is coming up, but we're still not there yet.
Yeah, no, it doesn't open until July 21st. I think we actually thought it was already open for some reason, Jason, because we talked about the possibility of maybe Izzy Monk joining the team. But no, there's still 16 days to go until the Wild can make some new signings.
Hi, I'm Avril Jamieson, and you're listening to the YYC Soccer Podcast.
All right, so let's recap APL action from Friday night, as we always do in our weekend recap. Jason, why don't we start off with a huge matchup in Edmonton, doubleheader between Blizzard and BTB. Blizzard coming into this one with a perfect 8-0 record on the men's side, but no longer. BTB winning this one 2-1.
Yeah, that's a big result for BTB. They win 2-1, and that now puts them on top of the men's division with 27 points, 10 matches. So Blizzard has 24 points, but they have a game in hand. They have only played 9 matches, but yeah, this is a real statement by BTB. And if Blizzard would have won this match, I think they might have been really hard to catch going in these last 2 games of the year. But now we've got a real battle here, and it's probably going to go very close to the end of the season, I would think.
Right. And Blizzard, as we've talked about, still have 2 games to play against Foothills in what'll be a really intriguing clash in Calgary between the top 2 Calgary teams on the men's side. But yeah, I mean, Blizzard, looked so strong. Jason, you've been out to see them live. We watched them play Montreal in the CanChamp not that long ago, and this was a top of the table clash and close game. Blizzard's goal coming from Joey Plenzik. I'm curious though, do you know if the tiebreaker is goals differential or is it head to head? Because Blizzard still has a better goal differential by far, but
I don't know the answer to that. So that's
because if they win their game in hand, then if it was goal differential, then they would be in first. But if it was head to head, then that would be the case.
If it comes to head to head right now, Blizzard won their match, which would have been their home match in Calgary. They beat BTB back in May 4-0.
Okay, all right. So they still have a better head-to-head record as well.
Yeah, if you worked on the basis that they both have 1 win, 1 loss, but the goal differential in those 2 matches would favor Blizzard. So you would think that whatever the tiebreaker is right now, like whether it's goal differential in between themselves or goal differential in the league, they have that tiebreaker locked up.
Yeah, so I don't think Blizzard will get too down on this loss, but they, as mentioned, they still have 2 tough games against Foothills coming.
On that topic about Foothills, Foothills had a chance to gain some ground this week, and they only were able to manage 1 point against Rangers.
Yeah, with Fraser Aird scoring yet again, another penalty kick. I think he's had like 3 or 4 penalty kicks, Jason. And then Rangers' goal coming from John Paul Walter. Dropping 2 points when Blizzard dropped 3 is not what you want to be doing when you're trying to keep a pace with the 2 teams ahead of you.
Well, especially when you consider that Rangers is in last place and they've been, this is only their second result of the season. They've had 2 draws. That's it. And one of them was this week against Foothills. So I think that one's got to hurt from a Foothills point of view.
Absolutely. And on the women's side, these 2 teams also played. This was a 1-1 draw. Rangers' goal coming from Grace Moore. Foothills' goal coming via penalty kick from former podcast guest Avril Jameson.
We should probably get back and talk about BTB versus Blizzard on the women's side, because that was also a pretty significant result as well.
Yes, sorry to forget that. A 3-0 win for BTB, which keeps them a point within Blizzard. BTB is in third with 19 points, and Blizzard, with these drop points, second with 20, 1 point back of the Calgary Wild U23s. Yeah,
first loss of the season for Blizzard. They did have a couple draws, but so very successful weekend for BTB and a bit of a tough one for Blizzard.
Other matches we could talk about: Villains taking on St. Albert at Broadview. On the men's side, this was a 4-1 win for St. Albert. Not too surprising. Benjamin Asabil scoring Villains' lone goal. On the women's side, same result, but a little bit closer. St. Albert winning 3-2, with Villains' goals coming from an own goal and, we believe, Maddie Albert.
We've already alluded to it, but let's just run through at least the top part of the standings. In the women's division, Wild U23, who was idle this past weekend, they have 21 points. Blizzard have 20 points, and BTB has 19 points, but they have played 1 more game than those 2 teams.
Yeah, and Foothills, after 9 games, they have 16 points. And then rounding out the table, St. Albert Impact, Rangers, Villains, and Callies United.
And on the men's side, as we talked about, BTB's got 27 points, Blizzard have 24, Foothills have 20, and then there's a big drop after that.
Yeah, Cavalry FC too. They're in the middle of the pack, 4th place with 12 points, 8 points back at Foothills, and they're 1 point ahead of St. Albert Impact, who are in 5th. They've had a bit of a drop off this season. And then rounding out the table, the 3 teams at the bottom of the standings, Callies United, Villains, and Rangers.
You know, I was just looking at the table here right now, Scott, just while we're going over this. And I believe all of those teams have been eliminated from first place. Like if you look, Cavalry is not eligible, but St. Albert have 5 matches left. So even if they won all of them, they would still be only on 26 points, which is 1 behind BTB.
Yeah. So I guess there's only 3 teams then that could really challenge for that coveted spot in the CanChamp next year. That being BTB, Blizzard, and Foothills, as I think we've kind of figured for the last several weeks.
Let's talk about the Tuesday night matches. There is a massive doubleheader at Broadview on Tuesday evening, Blizzard and Foothills.
Yeah, I think this is massive, right? As we've kind of already talked about. We've been waiting for this matchup, Jason. I think we're keen to get out to this game. Big implications for first place. So the men kick things off at 5:30 p.m. And the women will follow suit at 8 p.m. under the floodlights at Broadview.
In other matchups, Callies United is playing Cavalry and the Wild. Although they're playing them in very different locations.
Yeah, I raised my eyebrow when I saw this, Jason. Cavalry FC 2 versus Callies United is taking place at University of Lethbridge on Tuesday night.
The Cavalry Alberta tour is happening here. Tuesday in Lethbridge and then Friday in Airdrie.
Yep. And on the women's side, Calgary Wild U23s will face Callies United at Maxwell Center at 3:30 p.m. But that trip down to Lethbridge, that should be interesting. I'm wondering how much of the attendance they'll draw.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of the YYC Soccer Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please follow or subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so new episodes are waiting for you as soon as they're released. Visit yycsoccer.com for our complete archive and links to purchase Scott's book, Here Come the Cavalry. It's all about the history of professional soccer in Calgary. We love your feedback, so leave us a question on the website and connect with us on X, Instagram, or Blue Sky, where our username is at @YYCSoccer403. If you have a moment, leave us a review. It really helps other soccer fans discover the show. And we'll be back soon with more stories from Calgary soccer community. So until next time, keep supporting local soccer and we'll see you at the match.